Hello everybody, it's Merlin here, and I'm doing kind of a brief late video. I recently saw the season 11, I guess, premiere of Doctor Who, and it's been a while since I talked about Doctor Who on the channel, and obviously this one was kind of a big deal. There's been a lot of build-up for it for a while. This Doctor is the first female incarnation of the Doctor, and I heard that there were, I guess, some mixed opinions about it. I'll be honest, I was kind of surprised, because the thing about Doctor Who, just to give you guys a brief history, I'm a pretty big Doctor Who fan, and for a couple of years, I was like obsessed with Who. I watched a lot of the old stuff. Like I love classic Doctor Who. I just love the really cheesy special effects, the good old sci-fi, kind of like Star Trek. I really enjoy that stuff. But I got into it because of the new series with Christopher Eccleston, and I followed along with David Tennant and most of Matt Smith's run pretty consistently, and I really liked Matt Smith a lot too. But I didn't really find Peter Capaldi's first episode to be that impressive, honestly. Yeah, I didn't really find Peter Capaldi's first episode to be that impressive, really. So I'll be honest, I didn't really follow along too much of him in the last couple of years. So I've kind of been a little out of Doctor Who for a while, but the interest kind of got back. I kind of gained interest again when I heard about this new Doctor, and I was like, "Ooh, it's out now. I'll check it out. I'll give that a watch." And so I checked it out on the BBC website, I guess BBC America or whatever. And yeah, definitely check it out if you're interested. I know that they try to make the first seasons good. I mean, I know that's not always the case, especially with Doctor Who. Some of the doctors have their rough starts, but for her, this version of the Doctor, I really liked her. I thought that I think it's interesting. They didn't really focus much on the fact that she was a woman, because it doesn't really matter. Like, is the character true to the Doctor? And yeah, she's eccentric, she's kind of hyperactive, super intelligent, a little snarky, but, pretty cool. I thought she was really channeling like a very David Tennant-esque, like kind of a, sort of like somewhere between David Tennant and Matt Smith, just really kind of hyperactive. But yeah, a lot of Tennant I kind of felt was what she was sort of modeling it after. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but that was kind of what I was getting. But yeah, I think the opening to the episode was interesting because they had this young man, doing a YouTube video. So I guess they're trying to kind of, continuing to be relevant with the younger audience. And he's talking about, the woman that he admired the most had a big impact on his life. And you think that he's going to be talking about his experience with the Doctor, because I guess this is going to be one of the companions. And I think that's one of the things that really struck me about this episode, is that structurally, they kind of introduce the companion first, kind of like they did with... It's kind of like they did with Eccleston's run when they introduced Rose and kind of learn a little about it. It's kind of like with Eccleston's run where they introduce Rose and a little bit about her life and routine, and then slowly interject the Doctor. I feel like this was just kind of a similar example of something like that. And you kind of see this kid, he's got some kind of issue. I think it was some kind of physical issue. He has trouble riding a bike, and he's frustrated about that because he's like 19 and he's struggling. He's got his grandmother and his grandmother's new husband. They're kind of encouraging him. So there's a bit of clearly some family strife there. He's having trouble accepting this new gentleman into the family, and I guess his parents aren't there. So there's some history to this guy. He's definitely got some sadness. He's got some issues he's working on. We learn a little bit about him, and we learn a little bit about, and we also learn a little bit more about this police officer, I guess. And I really, and I really like both those characters. And I like basically all four of those characters: the boy, or the young man rather, his grandmother, his grandmother's husband, and this police officer who he turns out to have, I guess, gone to school with. They all cross paths, and they sort of become the Doctor's, I guess, potential companions. At least it seems suggested that they might be recurring, but they are sort of the companions for this episode, at least. And I really liked the cast. I thought they were all really good actors, and I thought they all seemed like really believable people. And that's one thing that I have to say, that even compared to a lot of the previous seasons' Doctor's companions, a lot of them seemed kind of cartoony. Like, they never seemed quite real. Like, they're the most grounded, realistic, believable characters. I was like, wow. And just the whole way the episode was shot, it was mostly at night, so it was kind of dark, but it just seemed like they were going for a more gritty, realistic texture because the alien monster, there's two alien monsters basically, at least it seems that way. There's these weird tentacle, electrical flying blob things that are going around. They're scanning things, and then they implant these little devices that are going to scramble their DNA, and that's the thing that's causing them to have a running clock of sorts, ticking clock, to say, oh, we've got to save ourselves, before we die, to stop these things. And there's also this weird, like, bounty hunter creature that might be at war with them or going after them. And it really, literally, this episode was a lot like The Predator. Like, even I was thinking it was very similar to the Predator movies, except you actually get to hear the Predator talk, and the Predator creature has a personality. And I thought that they were using another classic monster, and I thought it was the Ice Warriors, the lizard Ice Warriors from Mars, because it had a very similar design for this armor, which looked really cool. It was, and then you get to see his face, and I'm like, oh man, like that. This is, and the sound effect, this like screeching, like rumble of industrial sounds every time he's like coming around the corner. Like, they made this bad guy really intimidating. His evil voice. It's just like, oh man, like they kind of, literally, that was really cool. And just the doctor's banter, she was good. No, she really seemed like she was like the Doctor. She was just solving the problems. She is kind of transitioning into her new form. I liked how she made her screwdriver. I'm not sure. I guess you can do that, but it looks like it's made almost of stone and glass and crystal. It's kind of cool. It's kind of a chunky little thing, but I enjoyed that. But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it flowed very well. I mean, the episode kind of gives you a little twist where he's not actually talking about the Doctor. I mean, someone dies saving the day, and he's actually talking about her. And then there's a funeral where this other character's talking. And I'm not going to lie, I got a little teary-eyed. Towards the end of the episode with those two monologues. I'm like, oh man, they made you like this character, and then they die. And I'm like, oh man, so that's not going to be a recurring character. And it shows there are stakes, and there is, there's stakes and there are consequences. There is always a danger. And I really like how the best new episodes for new Doctors really do this transition where if you're very familiar with Doctor Who, you will appreciate this episode. But if this was your first episode of Doctor Who, you don't need to know anything, because that's kind of how every episode is. You're like jumping in the middle of the story, but they kind of get you caught up like, this is who I am and this is what I'm about. And there are aliens and this is what's happening. And the characters are just as confused as you, so they are kind of an outlet for the audience as well. I mean, I think I always like how they really do that transition very well. And this was one of the, I'm not going to lie, this is the best episode I've seen of Doctor Who in a while. And I mean, I didn't watch a lot of Capaldi, so you take that with a grain of salt, but still, like, I am curious to see where it will go, and I don't know if I'll keep up with it, but let's put it this way. I felt passionate enough that even though I've got a couple more videos coming out for you guys, a couple podcasts, and a couple other videos as well, I was like, I just want to do this impromptu review of this Doctor Who episodes because, I don't know, I do like Doctor Who a lot, but this kind of reinvigorated my interest, so I wanted to get that out there. And hey, if you guys liked it, yeah, let me know in the comments. If you didn't like it, let me know. And if you haven't seen it and you're interested in Doctor Who, check it out if you haven't already. I think it's definitely worth your time. I thought it was a really good, solid hour of TV. I thought it was very good. But yeah, that was my little video on Doctor Who, and I'll see you guys later. All right, everybody, stay magical.